What impact do you think a spot ETF will have on the market?
It's a milestone on the road to institutional adoption of Bitcoin. So I think it's important. It's one of probably 6 or 7 things that are milestones. The significance is big institutional investors want clarity and they want to know that the asset is a legitimate asset. The second thing is many of them have to buy securities. They can't buy commodities. So there are trillions and trillions of dollars that are in these institutions, pension funds and institutional investors, where they can buy securities, but they cannot buy commodities. And so they couldn't buy Bitcoin even if they wanted to buy the Bitcoin. And so I think the spot ETF is an endorsement of the regulators as a legitimate asset, but also it provides an on-ramp where I could go and I could buy $10 million of it in 30 seconds.
In his latest interview, he speaks to the BlackRock Bitcoin ETF and why it unleashes trillions of dollars of institutional capital into Bitcoin and why it's such a big deal. He also speaks through why technocrat investors, meaning those who embrace and invest early into new technologies, are the ones who generate generational wealth.
But as more people adopt it, and as liquidity increases in the mainstream institutional investor market, I think the volatility will decrease and is decreasing. And then eventually you get the Warren Buffetts and you get the Carl Icahns of the world that say, I don't know if I understand it, but it seems like a juggernaut, so I guess I'll buy $10 billion of it. You know, and Warren Buffett made more money on Apple stock than he made in his entire life on everything else you've ever heard of. And he made that money faster. And the same is true. If Bitcoin is better investment than real estate, well, you know, Congress and the Treasury and the FBI and FinCEN, they're not gonna take a lot of issue with the fact that you actually demonetize some commercial real estate by 2%. So Bitcoin is emerging as this digital property network, and it meets the use case of store of value. I think that Bitcoin is emerging as a supported asset class. If you've got the regulators endorsing it, Congress endorsing it, legislators endorsing it, you've got candidates endorsing it. I probably underestimated the volatility about a year ago. You know, before the entire meltdown when Bitcoin hit 66,000, I didn't think it would draw down to 16,000. I would have thought, I would think it'd be a volatility plus or minus 30% or something, and it turned out to be a bit more brutal this cycle. So sometimes just slightly underestimate the volatility. It's very difficult to figure out where we are in the life cycle. But most people are trying to actually improve their economic circumstance. So the ones that understand that embrace Bitcoin, and the ones that don't understand Bitcoin may be skeptical of it, or may say, like when Charlie Munger and Warren Buffett don't endorse it, I don't think that they spend 1,000 hours thinking about it and they're our enemy. I just think that someone poked the bear and they spent 15 minutes thinking about it and they just don't understand it. So I think that the world is evolving in the way I would expect. People are just getting educated, and as they get more educated, the world rationalizes.
So there's Michael Saylor, the undisputed king of Bitcoin. Saylor's insights on the BlackRock Bitcoin ETF and his reasoning on why it could channel trillions of dollars into Bitcoin, and his thoughts on how technocrat investors are poised to generate generational wealth is truly eye-opening.